You will no longer live off my back. The sentence sliced through the room while my baby slept in the next room, unaware her father had just chosen a side. My mother-in-law said it confidently, standing in my living room like she was reclaiming stolen property. My husband didn't interrupt her. He nodded, smiled. My name is Aloan Hartley. I'm 30, freshly postpartum, still bleeding, still healing, still pretending I'm not drowning. The apartment we were standing in? Mine. Bought before marriage. Paid for with help from my parents, quietly, without demands. My husband straightened his shoulders and said, Mom will keep all the cards and cash. For safekeeping. From now on, we're doing this right. I blinked once. Darling, I replied calmly because rage deserves witnesses and I wasn't giving him that. You don't work. I'm on maternity leave. And we're living on my parents' money in my apartment. His face hardened. I don't care, he snapped. I'm done talking. Then he went to bed. Just like that. I stayed in the kitchen, the baby monitor glowing softly beside me. Something heavy settled into place inside my chest. By morning, I had prepared everything. They just didn't know it yet. Morning came quietly. Too quietly for a house that had just declared war on me. I fed my daughter, changed her, kissed her soft forehead, and watched my husband sleep like a man who believed decisions made at night erased consequences by daylight. His mother had already left. Of course she had. She never stayed for aftermaths. This wasn't new behavior. Just louder. Before the baby, he'd always framed things as temporary. Temporary dependence. Temporary stress. Temporary pride wounds. He hadn't worked in over a year, blaming the market, his confidence, my strong personality. My parents covered groceries, utilities, diapers now. Every time, he promised he'd handle it soon. Soon never came. What did come were comments. How long do you think your parents will keep paying? You're lucky they pity you. My mom says a real man shouldn't live like this. And now this. I opened my laptop while my daughter slept against my chest and checked the account my parents used for household support. Still active. Still untouched. I hadn't given him access. Not legally. Not fully. Yet. In the afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from my mother-in-law. We need to talk about transferring responsibility. I stared at the screen, then at my sleeping baby. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about money. It was about control. And they had underestimated who they were trying to take it from. That evening, he finally noticed something was different. Dinner was on the table. The baby was bathed. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. I hadn't argued. I hadn't asked questions. I hadn't reminded him of anything. Men like him mistook silence for surrender. So, he said, sitting down, Mom thinks it's time we set some boundaries. I didn't look up. I stirred my soup slowly. Boundaries are important, I said. He smiled. The wrong kind. She's right, you know. You rely too much on your parents. It makes me look bad. I met his eyes for the first time. You don't look bad, I said softly. You look comfortable. His smile vanished. He leaned forward. From now on, I'll handle the finances. Mom already found a system. You just have to trust us. Us. Not me. Not his child. Us. Later that night, while he slept, I opened the folder on my laptop labeled property and legal. I hadn't touched it in months. I'd hoped I wouldn't need to. The apartment deed. The prenuptial agreement he never read. The account access logs. Everything was still exactly where I'd left it. And for the first time since giving birth, I felt something stronger than exhaustion. Clarity. Because if he thought this was about taking control from me, he had no idea what I was about to take back. The humiliation came sooner than I expected. My mother-in-law invited family over that weekend. I wasn't asked. I was informed. When I walked into the living room, my husband's aunt, uncle, and cousin were already seated, smiling politely, eyes curious. Predatory curiosity. My mother-in-law stood up like a host addressing guests. We just want to support these two during a difficult transition, she said, placing a hand on my husband's shoulder. He's finally stepping up. My husband nodded. We've decided I'll be managing all finances now, he announced. It's time we stop depending on her parents. All eyes turned to me. I felt my face heat, not from shame, but from disbelief. They were rewriting my life out loud, using my silence as consent. My mother-in-law added sweetly, "A woman shouldn't control money anyway, especially not when she's emotional after childbirth." Laughter. Light. Comfortable. I stood there holding my baby, reduced to a stereotype in my own home. I smiled. "Of course," I said calmly. "If we're discussing finances, it's good everyone's here." The room quieted. My husband frowned. "What are you doing?" I adjusted my grip on my daughter and said, "Just telling the truth." And that's when the atmosphere shifted. Because truth, spoken calmly, terrifies people who live on lies. That night, after everyone left, I didn't cry. I bathed my daughter, rocked her until her breathing slowed, then placed her gently in her crib. Only then did I sit at the kitchen table and let the silence settle. Pain was there, but it wasn't wild. It was precise. Focused. I opened my laptop again. This time, I didn't just look. I acted. First, I changed passwords. Every account my parents funded. Every utility. Every subscription. I removed his access quietly, methodically, like a woman tidying up after guests who overstayed. Then I drafted emails. One to my parents, clear, calm, factual. One to a lawyer I'd met years ago, who specialized in property and family law. And one I didn't send yet, to my husband. I reviewed the prenuptial agreement line by line. He'd laughed when I insisted on it. Said it meant I didn't trust him. The document said otherwise. The apartment was mine. The support funds were conditional. Very conditional. By midnight, everything was in place. I closed the laptop and looked around the apartment. My apartment. They thought this was about money, about pride, about me being emotional. They were wrong. This was about ownership. And tomorrow I was going to remind them legally who held it. The execution began at breakfast. He reached for his phone, frowned, then tried again. "Did the Wi-Fi stop working?" he asked. I sipped my tea. "No." He opened his banking app. His face tightened. "My card's not going through." "That's strange," I said calmly. "It worked yesterday." He stood up, irritated now. "Did you change something?" I looked at him the way you look at a stranger who's finally revealed himself. I corrected something. His phone rang. His mother. I watched his confidence return as he answered, until it drained from his face mid-sentence. "What do you mean the account is frozen?" he snapped. "She can't do that." He looked at me then. Really looked. I slid a printed envelope across the table. Inside were copies. The deed. The prenup clause highlighted. A notice from my lawyer. And a simple statement from my parents ending financial support effective immediately. "You told everyone you were taking responsibility," I said. So I stepped back. His voice shook. "You're embarrassing me." "No," I replied evenly. "I'm allowing you to live up to your announcement." He tried anger. Then guilt. Then threats. None of them worked. Because for the first time, he had nothing to stand on. And he knew it. By evening, the collapse was complete. His mother arrived unannounced, breathless, furious, her confidence cracking at the edges. She didn't sit. She paced. "You humiliated my son," she said. In front of family. He stood behind her like a shield that had already failed. "I didn't humiliate anyone," I said. I honored his words. She scoffed. "You think paperwork makes you powerful?" "No," I replied. "Clarity does." My husband finally exploded. "You planned this," he yelled. "You trapped me." I held my daughter closer. "I warned you. You just didn't listen." He demanded access back. Apologies came next, thin, rehearsed, desperate. When that didn't work, blame followed. He accused me of being cold, calculating, unfair. I nodded. I had to be. You left me no room to be anything else. His mother hissed something about lawyers, about family courts, about what people would say. I met her eyes. "You can leave." Silence fell. For the first time, they realized they were guests in a space they no longer controlled. That night, he packed a bag. Not because I told him to, but because there was nowhere left for him to stand. As the door closed behind them, I didn't feel victory. I felt relief. And I knew one final truth still waited to be spoken. The final twist didn't come with shouting. It came 2 days later, quietly in an email. My lawyer forwarded me a message from his mother's attorney, formal, confident, threatening mediation. They wanted fair access to the apartment, to the funds, to their grandchild's stability. I smiled for the first time in weeks. I replied with one attachment. A notarized letter my husband had signed years ago, half laughing, half dismissive. A clause he never thought mattered. In it, he acknowledged that in the event of separation, he would vacate the apartment immediately and waive any claim to residency, finances, or decision-making authority over assets tied to my parents' support. His mother never wrote back. That night, I stood by my daughter's crib, watching her sleep, the apartment quiet and finally safe. I didn't feel cruel. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. They tried to take my voice while I was vulnerable. They tried to rewrite my life while I was healing. They tried to control me with confidence they hadn't earned. What they forgot was simple. I wasn't living off anyone's back. They were standing on mine. And I finally stepped away.